missing someone. Love with all your heart. Missing someone. Love with heart.
Happy Monday, guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren. For those of you guys who are new, I go by Locks by Lauren on Instagram, and today I'm going to show you a crazy color correction transformation on this beautiful client of mine. She was a brand new client, and on her brown ends there, you can see she has previously box dyed her hair once. But before we begin and I get into this, I just want to let you guys know that I do not show all of the steps that we're taking to achieve this color correction. And the reason being is because I do try this new technique that I learned from another hairdresser. She goes by Roxy Beauty Touch on Instagram. And I want to just show some tips and tricks of mine that helped me along the way. I will go over the general idea of what I did, but there are some things that I learned in her class that are solely secrets of hers. And if you are a hairdresser, I highly recommend taking her color correction class because I've learned so much and it's really inspired me to try them out behind the chair as well. So like I said before, my client did box dye her mids and ends, and everything at the regrowth there that is darker is her virgin regrowth. And today our goal is to be as light as possible. So we're gonna go in and do more of a platinum card. So if you're unfamiliar with what a platinum card is, it's basically just taking really thin slices all around the head to ensure maximum amount of lift. By doing this, you're making sure that you can fully saturate the hair and get everything as even as possible, because if you were to take sections that were even a little bit thicker than what I'm taking, or anything thicker than something that's more see-through, sometimes after you take all the foils out, you can see that some of the hair lifts uneven. So just taking really thin sections ensures that you get the most even lift as possible, and it just makes your life so much easier once like you're done foiling and everything. And for the application, since I'm doing this in foils, I am doing it probably like a little ½ inch away from the root. This is because right at the root there is a heat zone that lets the color process a little bit faster. So it's good to keep away from that heat zone and let the mids and ends kind of catch up towards about a level like 8, and then apply the root lightener formula. And so basically once I was done foiling her at this point, I did go back in to the previous foils in the back and I hit her root. And then I repeated the same process as I got towards the front once the foils kind of lifted to about a level 8 and she was ready to have everything processed together. Because since that heat zone is there, applying the lightener at her root later, it does eventually kind of catch up to the mids and ends that are in the foils. So even though this color client is technically a color correction, I didn't do a test strand on her, which if you're doing a color correction, I do recommend doing test strands. Sometimes I do, but this one I felt like it was okay and I could get by without doing one because the box dye that she had used made her hair lighter, and sometimes like using a box dye that makes your hair lighter, it could be a lot easier to lift than a box dye that would make her hair darker. So I just went in with 20 volume in the back and then worked my way to 30 in the front. And I just used one formula because I didn't test strand her and I wasn't sure whether everything was gonna lift the same. But when I was done foiling her, I did notice that the ends were a little bit warmer from the box dye, so it was no big deal. I just went back in and just resaturated whatever was warm so that it could kind of catch up to whatever was already light, and it honestly lifted perfectly fine and got a little bit more even. But yeah, if she had a box dye that was darker, like a black box dye or anything, I would have totally done a test strand before doing this, or maybe mixed up a stronger formula for the box dye area prior to doing the whole application. So this is what my client's hair looked like once I was done foiling her. She had a ton of hair, guys, like so much hair. So this took a while for me to foil. I can't remember off the top of my head how long this took, but definitely a while. So here I'm just checking in, and you can see I already hit the root with lightener and just kind of let it process, and it's pretty much catching up to those mids and ends like I said before. And here I am pulling out the foils. You can see she lifted to a level 9 and 10, and this was probably my favorite part, just seeing how satisfying and like all of the hard work of taking really thin sections pays off at the end and gets you like the most even and perfect lift ever. And once I was done pulling out all the foils and I rinsed all the lightener off, I did not have to go back and relighten any spots because I did take really thin sections and everything was able to lift pretty evenly, which was amazing. And honestly, my client's hair lifted a lot lighter than I expected. I was kind of expecting her ends to be maybe like a level 8 at the lightest, but they were able to get to about a level 9 and 10, and you can see how even everything pretty much is, and her hair felt very healthy still afterwards. So once all the lightener was rinsed off, I did pre-tone her with some Barcelona purple shampoo by Pulp Riot, and this stuff is my favorite purple shampoo. You guys always hear me talk about it and rave about this purple shampoo, and I love it because it's just really pigmented and it doesn't dry out the hair, which is freaking amazing, and I love it so much. I just let it sit for a few minutes and you can see that it toned a lot of the yellow out. Like, it's amazing, guys. You can see how even this lift is pretty much all over, considering from what she came in with the box dye on her ends and how much long regrowth she had. So for her color formula, I will be using the Pulp Riot Semis, and she was going for more of a gray with some pops of pink and purple, so I mixed up a darker purple for her root, which is velvet, lilac, and clear. And then for the lighter purple, I did velvet, lilac, clear, and some blush. And then for the pink formula, we used clear, blush, and cupid, and then the gray is smoke and some clear. So I began the color application by applying the darker purple formula at her root, and I chose to create a darker purple formula for her root so that when it fades it looks like a brand new color. I love the Pulp Riot Semis because they fade true to tone, so as this fades it will eventually fade back to blonde, but as she keeps washing it, it'll look like a different color. And honestly, I prefer the fades of semi colors anyways because they fade really pretty, and I told her that pinks and purples fade the best because they just kind of fade silvery and then back to blonde once it's fully washed out. So I had a feeling that doing a darker purple at the root was just going to make everything flow better as the color fades. And then once I was done applying the root, I did apply smoke all around the bottom of her occipital, and then everything above the occipital at that mohawk section. I did alternate the light purple, the pastel pink, and smoke, and this was to create a ribbon effect on the top. And my placement, I did start in the back and then take slices towards the hairline, and this is because I wanted to see ribbons of the color rather than have everything just look super blended. I wanted to see more chunks of each tone, and if you wanted it to be more of a blended look where it's kind of woven in, I would recommend taking these sections up off the side, but because I wanted to see more chunks of it, I took these sections from the back towards the hairline. When applying the Pulp Riot Semis, it is more conditioner based, so you don't want to like work it in too much, otherwise it just kind of turns into conditioner at that point. So I do take really thin paper slices and then just make sure that I'm fully saturating, and I do move my brush side to side, and that is to ensure that like it's getting full saturation. By moving my brush side to side, I'm able to like move the hairs around and make sure that every hair is being colored. So once I was done applying, I let this sit for about 25 minutes at room temperature, and then once she was done fully processing, I went ahead and took her back to the bowl and rinsed her with ice cold water. Alrighty, so here is my client's after. You can see my color placement. It creates nice, beautiful blended chunks of those pops of pink and purple throughout her silver hair. And this color is only possible on hair that is about a level 9 and 10 because of how light these colors are. But yeah, I really loved doing this technique that I learned from Roxy Beauty Touch. If you are looking for a new class to take, I highly recommend taking her class, and it was just super fun and inspiring just learning from another hairdresser all of their tips and tricks. But thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in to this week's episode, and I will talk to you guys next week.